Thank you very much. I have to say, it's extremely nice to be here to talk about science, and I'm not grading your papers afterwards. So, in a complete opposite to the last person up there, I'm from a family of non-academic, non-scientists. So whenever I go home, I get asked an awful lot of questions about what is it you actually do? And after they get bored of the explanation, 4, maybe 5 seconds in, it then comes around to the questions like, so if you have a lab accident, do you get superpowers? And the answer to that is always no. Your hair falls out, then you die. So it doesn't matter how many times we have this conversation, it's always the same thing. Do you get superpowers if you fall in the beam? No. Your hair falls out, then you die. And it just goes like this every time. Now, of course, what I actually tend to do at work is I do a lot of structural science. So we want to know what the structure of the materials we work with is. And we use a lot of X-rays for this. So, while this would be a great origin story, we tend to do things a little bit more safely. So, we do these things where we get these tiny little crystals, and they're only the size of a few human hairs width, that sort of thing. And in comes a beam of X-rays, hits the crystal, ping, scatters. And you end up with all these dots on a screen. We take these dots and we go through and sort them and process them. And then we're able to reconstruct the actual structure of matter itself in the crystal. So we can find out things like how we store gases, how we recycle batteries, which is what we do. And really, what it is, it's playing dot to dot for a living. So that's your taxpayers' money at work, thanks. Now, we can do a lot of this at home, in the lab. I say home, lab, that's where I live these days. And, but every now and again, you need a bit more grunt than what we can get in the lab. So we have to go to a big facility, and this facility is called the Synchrotron. Now, a synchrotron is basically a huge tube, a couple of 100 meters round, and you pump in a load of electrons, you get a great big magnet, and you get these electrons up to 99.9999% of the speed of light. And they go round and round and round and round. And a lot like a toddler, if you spin them around fast enough, they're going to throw up. Except instead of a big pile of carrots and all that sort of stuff, the electrons tend to throw up deadly radiation instead. So what we do is we take this deadly radiation, we strip out the bits we don't want, and we get this beautiful, pure beam of X-rays that comes in, hits the crystal, ping, dots. Fantastic. So we used to go to these synchrotrons a fair bit, and back when I was a postdoc in Sydney, we'd often go to the Australian synchrotron. And one of the main selling points about the Australian synchrotron is because it's in the southern hemisphere, the electrons go around the other way. So, we'd get the plane from Sydney and we'd wind up in Melbourne and we'd go into the place. And you'd think, going to a synchrotron with these electrons going around at this speed and all of that, there'd be like some sort of sickly green glow to the place with the radiation. And there'd be like cadaverous-looking German guys in lab coats doing countdowns, and there'd be some sort of ominous sort of noise. And instead, all you really get is the sound of the air conditioning and an occasional announcement, the lunch truck's outside. So a group of us pitched up, and we've got 4 days of experiments to do. And of course, the first thing you do, because we work very safely, because we don't want our hair to fall out and we don't want to die, is we do the safety training. And considering we've got these electrons doing 99.9999% of the speed of light, and we've got the deadly radiation, we've got the honking great big magnets, and we've got the sort of voltages that would just leave a permanent shadow of you and nothing else. All the safety training is about is do not get killed by a forklift truck. Two-thirds of the training is not getting hit by a forklift truck. I don't know what sort of massacre happened at this place. Bits of scientists ground into the floor. God knows. But that's the main thing. Don't get hit by a forklift truck. So we've divided up the shifts. We've got 4 days to get all of our samples done. And it's going great. The first day, it's just putting on a sample, X-ray comes in, hits the crystal, ping, spots, process the data, fantastic new compound. Change the sample, ping, spots, You get the idea. Lather, rinse, repeat. And it was all going grand. But of course, when dividing up the shifts, it's always Muggins here who gets the night shift. Every time. And it was all going fine, and I'm taking this night shift by myself. Everyone else has gone to bed, or they're sort of half cut in the hotel, that sort of thing. Cheers, guys. And, I've got to change a crystal over. Now, this is a fairly simple job. You go up to the little console in the office, and you press the button that brings down the shutter. And the shutter is a big block of metal, and it comes down into the beam, tick, and it stops the beam. So that means you can unlock the door, you can go in, you can change the sample over, and you don't die. So that's great. So anyway, press the button, down comes the shutter. Tick, go in there, change the crystal, put the new one on, and then you have to do the search procedure, because next to ninjas and Russian special forces, the sneakiest thing on Earth is unconscious bodies getting into the beam space. So you walk around the hutch where the X-rays are, you go to the furthest point, you press a blue button. Bing. You have 10 seconds to find the unconscious body that got in there while you were doing your work. No one here. You press the next button. Do it too quickly, it resets. Do it too slow, it resets. Press the button. No unconscious bodies here. No, nothing. Go around to the next button. Press the button. Still no one's come in. Great. So you go outside, and then you've got this door that's been cut from the side of a battleship. Weighs about 1/3 of a ton, 3-inch thick steel. So you drag this enormous bastard of a door across, and then, proud of yourself, you've got it up to speed. You've got to decelerate it before it smashes the lock at the other end. Crack it. Then you press the last blue button, and then, if your unconscious body has managed to somehow get in while you weren't looking, and is hidden away, unconscious, there's a huge alarm goes off in the hutch that should wake them up, hopefully. They tend to take a dim view of you leaving the unconscious body in there, attempted murder or something. So, that's great. Then, X-rays come in, they hit the crystal, ping, spots. Now it's all going grand. So, then I've got to change the crystal again, because it goes pretty quick. So, unlock the hutch. After pressing the button, that brings down the shutter, tick. Open the door, and go in and change the crystal. And at this point, I can hear a little noise. Tick, 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 tick. Well, there's loads of noises. It's a big, busy place with lots of machinery. So now I am adjusting the crystal. It's a very, very small crystal. It's a very, very small beam, and you have to get it just right, just in the beam. Tick, 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 tick. Well, I'm not wearing a watch, so it's not that. Turn the crystal again, get it right in the beam. Tick, 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 tick. I'm starting to get a little worried now by this noise. Not quite getting where it's coming from. So, final check on the crystal, spin it round, make sure it spins on its own axis. All good. Tick, 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 tick. It's the shutter, isn't it? I am stood in the beam, and the shutter's opening and closing. Shit. At this point, what you're supposed to do is you hit the big red button. At this point, everything stops. The electrons stop, the deadly radiation stops, all the experiment stops. The only thing still working at this point is the Coke machine in reception. But then a thought comes into my head. Okay, so I've had my dose of deadly radiation. I'm still in the beam space. I think what I'll do is I'm just going to close the door, because hundreds of hours of work has gone into making these crystals, these samples. People have travelled from all over Australia to come and work here, and it takes 6 months to apply. And I'm about to turn all those experiments off when I've already had my deadly dose of radiation. So I just close the door and phone up the control room. Now, the control room at 2 a.m. is not necessarily the liveliest place on Earth. Hi there, is that the control room? Yep. I've got a bit of a problem down here at the single crystal line. Yep. I was just in there changing a crystal over. Yep. and I can hear the shutter opening and closing. We'll be right down. Thump, 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 thump. People actually running along the gantry from the office down to the beam space. Oh, boy. So I'm standing there, and these three guys come along. All right, what's the problem? I was just in there changing the crystal, and I can hear the shutter opening and closing. No, mate, can't happen, can't happen. See, as you open that door, shutter's down. See, interlock. It's like, I can hear it. Okay, we'll have a look. So out comes the Geiger counter. This little yellow and black box with a dial is going to tell me if I've had the dose of deadly radiation or not. The probe comes out. They test it. Click, click, click. Just the background, that's ground. The door is opened a tiny crack. The counter goes round. Click, click, click. So far, so good. The beam, the control room guy's now looking at me going, I think I've got an idiot here. The door is opened another tiny crack, and now the counter actually goes round the side of the door. Click, click, click. The guy's like, I've definitely got an idiot here. The door is dragged open. Everyone walks in. There's nothing on the counter. If the beam was on, it would be screaming. I told you, mate. No. There's an interlock. Shutter comes down. Oh, yeah? So what's that sound then? Tick, 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 tick. Oh, God, it's the shutter. As it turns out, the shutter was down. And there's a tiny second shutter that goes tick, 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 tick when it gets stuck on. So, in the long run, I did not get my deadly dose of radiation, I did not get my origin story, and I did not die. And I did, however, get to keep all my hair. Thank you very much.